The morning sun rose slowly over the ancient skyline of Jerusalem, casting long shadows across the golden stones that had witnessed the weight of countless civilizations. Dr. Layla Haddad stood near the edge of an excavation site in the Armenian, her boots sinking slightly into the soft dust of history. Her eyes followed the lines of the walls, half unearthed, revealing traces of a city that had been rebuilt and reimagined more times than anyone could count. Layla was an archaeologist who had dedicated her life to understanding the buried past of this sacred city. She was known among her peers for her patience, her precision, and her refusal to rush judgment. Every stone she lifted, every artifact she touched, was treated like a living witness to forgotten ages. For Layla, Jerusalem was more than a city. It was a layered heartbeat of faith, myth, and truth. The excavation had begun as a simple survey ordered by the municipality. They were clearing the foundations of an old workshop, a crumbling structure that once belonged to a family of metal workers. Nothing about it suggested significance until one of Layla's assistants struck a hollow patch beneath the dirt. A gentle tap on the surface revealed a faint echo beneath the ground. Layla knelt, brushing away the soil. Her fingers traced a strange pattern etched into a limestone block. It wasn't a mark of labor or accident. It was deliberate, ancient, and precise. She called for Aaron Kaplan, an expert in ancient scripts, who was assisting on the dig. He hurried over, eyes narrowing as he examined the carvings. "These symbols," he murmured, "are unlike anything I have seen before. They are not Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek. They look older, maybe pre-Canaanite or something entirely unknown." Before Layla could reply, a gust of wind swept through the dig, carrying with it a faint scent of moisture and earth. As the dust cleared, she noticed a crack forming near the base of the wall. A small cavity appeared, revealing a dark void. Beneath the foundation, Layla shone her flashlight inside. The beam disappeared into a shaft, descending straight down into the depths below. Her heart raced. The chamber was not on any of the architectural plans of the area. No records mentioned a structure beneath this site. They lowered a small camera on a cable, and the feed that appeared on the laptop silenced everyone. The camera revealed a narrow staircase carved directly into the rock, leading down into a large vaulted chamber. The walls were lined with shelves, hewn from the stone, and stacked with jars, scrolls, and strange stone tablets. The air seemed to shimmer with age. The carvings on the walls appeared to tell a story, but the language was unknown. By the time the footage ended, the entire team stood motionless. They had uncovered something that should not have existed beneath that part of Jerusalem. The following day, Layla and her team descended carefully into the chamber. The air grew heavier as they went down, carrying the unmistakable scent of time and dust. The light of their headlamps illuminated paintings that had somehow survived centuries untouched, geometric symbols, spiral stars, and depictions of people performing what looked like rituals, surrounded by flowing streams of light. Aaron moved toward a stone table at the center of the room. On it rested a single object, a clay jar sealed with a dark resin. Layla carefully broke the seal, revealing an ancient scroll made of papyrus, yet astonishingly well preserved. She unrolled it slowly, her gloves trembling as the writing came into view. The script covered the entire surface. But what caught her attention was a repeating phrase written in larger symbols: "Remember what was hidden." The line was followed by a hand-drawn map of the city from a perspective unlike any Layla had ever seen. It showed tunnels, chambers, and pathways crisscrossing beneath the surface, all converging at a single marked point. Aaron leaned over, studying the symbols. "That location," he said softly, "points to the courtyard outside the church of St. Anne." Layla frowned. "That area has been excavated before. It's supposed to be empty beneath the surface." "Maybe not anymore," Aaron replied. That night Layla couldn't sleep. The discovery haunted her mind. Who built this place? Why did they hide it? And what could possibly be beneath the church courtyard that an ancient civilization felt necessary to conceal for thousands of years? The next morning, the news had already spread. Rumors. Leaked through social media and local papers, archaeologists uncover mysterious underground chamber in Jerusalem. The headlines read, "Soon journalists, government officials and representatives from multiple religious organizations began to arrive." Demanding access or answers, Layla tried to maintain control of the situation, but the site had already become a storm of competing interests. Despite the chaos, Layla continued her work late one evening while most of the team had left. She returned to the chamber with Miriam, her most trusted student. They examined a wall near the staircase where faint carvings depicted figures holding torches, facing what looked like an open doorway or gate. Around the figures were inscriptions that Aaron had not yet translated. Miriam noticed that the wall sounded hollow when tapped. They carefully removed a few stones, revealing another sealed passageway. Unlike the first, it was blocked by a heavy slab marked with the same strange script found on the papyrus scroll. Layla felt a deep unease. The slab seemed to radiate a faint vibration as if it resisted being disturbed. She placed her hand on its surface, and for a brief moment she thought she felt a faint warmth pulsing through the stone. "We should document it first," she said quietly. "No one touches it until we understand what it means." That decision would prove crucial, because unknown to them, they were not the first to find the chamber. Centuries ago, someone had sealed it deliberately, ensuring that its contents remained untouched until a time when the world was ready to face its truth. And now, for the first time in history, that truth was beginning to wake beneath the city that had been built upon its silence. The days following the discovery were filled with tension and uncertainty. The excavation site that once echoed with quiet concentration now buzzed with the voices of reporters, guards, and officials. Each group had its own agenda, some seeking history, others seeking ownership. Layla found herself caught between them, forced to defend the integrity of her work while protecting the fragile truth hidden below. Inside the chamber, her team worked under strict supervision. Every movement was recorded, every artifact logged. The deeper they went, the clearer it became that the underground structure was not a tomb or a storehouse. It was something more deliberate. A repository of knowledge carefully sealed away from the surface world. Aaron spent his nights studying the strange script found on the papyrus and the walls. He discovered that the language was built on a fusion of early Semitic roots, combined with symbols resembling constellations. Each mark carried multiple meanings, suggesting it was more than writing. It was a code, a way of preserving information that could only be understood through both language and geometry. One evening, Aaron rushed into Layla's temporary office, his eyes burning with excitement. "I think I've translated part of the map," he said, pointing to his notes. "This section here refers to something called the Foundation of Light. It describes a chamber connected to others through hidden tunnels, all leading to a central point directly beneath the church of St. Anne." Layla stared at the translation. Her thoughts raced. If the map was accurate, it could mean there was a vast network of tunnels beneath the old city, built long before any recorded civilization. She knew what that meant. The history of Jerusalem might not begin where everyone believed, but there was another complication. Late one night, as the team was closing down for the evening, a group of men claiming to be from a cultural preservation organization tried to enter the site. Their papers looked official, but something about them felt wrong. Their questions were too specific. They wanted to know about the sealed slab that Layla and Miriam had found. They mentioned it by its grid number, a detail that had never been released publicly. Layla refused them entry and called security. By morning, the men had vanished, but their presence left her uneasy. Someone else knew what lay beneath the ground, and they wanted it badly. Determined to move forward, she gathered her team and began preparations to open the sealed passageway. The atmosphere in the chamber that morning was heavy with anticipation and quiet fear. Aaron read a short prayer under his breath before they began. The slab was carefully loosened, using controlled vibrations and support frames. When it finally gave way, a stream of cool air escaped, carrying with it the scent of something ancient. Behind the slab lay a narrow tunnel carved with astonishing precision. The walls shimmered faintly, as if lined with crushed minerals reflecting. Their lights, in shifting patterns, they advanced cautiously until they reached another chamber, smaller, but unlike anything they had seen before. At its center stood a circular platform made of polished basalt, embedded with metal rings that glowed faintly when touched. Surrounding the platform were stone pedestals, each bearing an object, some metallic, some crystalline, all crafted with skill. Far beyond what was thought possible in the known ancient world, Layla examined one of the objects, a disc covered in the same symbols as the papyrus. When she brushed her glove across its surface, a faint vibration pulsed through it like a heartbeat. Aaron felt it too. They realized it was responding to touch, not through technology as they knew it, but through resonance, a form of energy transfer unknown to modern science. Miriam pointed to an inscription circling the edge of the platform. The translation read, "When the earth forgets, the sky shall remind her." The words sent a chill through the room. They suggested not a warning, but a message left intentionally for those who would one day uncover it. Over the next few hours, the team documented every detail, but Layla felt increasingly uneasy. The chamber felt alive, not in a mystical sense, but as though it had been designed to react to presence. The air seemed to hum softly, like a low frequency, barely perceptible, yet undeniably real. That night, after the team left, Layla stayed behind alone. She needed time to think. She stood before the glowing rings, tracing the inscriptions with her flashlight. The patterns seemed to form constellations, shifting in relation to where she stood. Slowly, she began to realize the design on the floor was not decorative. It was a star map, a mirror of the night sky, as it would have appeared thousands of years ago. And at the center of that map was not Jerusalem, but something beneath it, a focal point that aligned with none of the known religious or historical landmarks. Suddenly, the hum intensified. The rings glowed brighter, and a pulse of light spread across the floor. It was not violent, but steady, rhythmic, almost like the beating of a heart. Layla stepped back as the air grew warmer and the inscriptions began to shimmer. Aaron's voice echoed down the staircase. "Layla, are you still down there?" She turned to call out, but before she could answer, the light dimmed, leaving only silence and the faint smell of ozone. The platform returned to its dormant state as if nothing had happened. When Aaron arrived, she tried to explain what she had seen, but the recording devices had captured nothing. The light, the hum, the movement all gone. Only the faint warmth on the stone remained. "This place is not just a tomb," she whispered. "It's a message from a civilization that understood something we have forgotten." The next morning, Layla filed a restricted report, sealing the findings from public access until the data could be verified. But deep down she knew the discovery had already crossed the line between archaeology and revelation. Elsewhere in the city, a shadowed figure received a coded message. "The site has been breached. The seal is open. It has begun. The secrets of Jerusalem, long buried beneath layers of faith and stone, were awakening. And what they would reveal could change not just history, but the understanding of humanity itself." The morning after the strange incident in the chamber, Jerusalem seemed quieter than usual. The call to prayer echoed faintly across the ancient walls. Blending with the early church bells, The city appeared peaceful, but to Layla Haddad it felt as if the ground itself was holding its breath. She had spent most of the night reviewing every second of footage from the cameras placed around the chamber. None of them showed the surge of light she had witnessed. The sensors had recorded no increase in temperature, no vibration, no magnetic fluctuation. It was as if the event had happened only to her, yet she knew it was real. The warmth still lingered. In her hands, Aaron tried to console her. "Maybe it was stress," he said softly after all. "We have been working without rest for weeks. Maybe your mind filled the silence with something else." Layla shook her head firmly. "I know what I saw, and I know A platform responded to touch. "There is something alive beneath this city, not in a mystical sense, but in a way that science has yet to define." Before they could continue, Miriam rushed into the tent, carrying a freshly cleaned tablet found in the second tunnel. The carvings on it were sharper and more deliberate than any they had seen before. She placed it carefully on the table. The symbols glowed faintly when exposed to light. Aaron's eyes widened. "It's the same language. But look at the pattern. These lines are equations, not sentences. This is mathematics or physics, not scripture." Layla studied it closely and realized he was right. The carvings described geometric relationships, ratios between distance, time, and celestial movement. The tablet contained knowledge that hinted at advanced astronomical understanding. Thousands of years ago, someone had mapped the movement of stars with precision that rivaled modern instruments. "If this is accurate," Aaron whispered, "this civilization knew the precession of the equinox long before the Greeks or Egyptians. This changes everything we know about the origins of science." But their excitement was interrupted by a sudden commotion. Outside, armed guards had appeared at the entrance bearing official identification from a department none of them recognized. They announced that the government was taking full control of the site, effective immediately, citing national security concerns. Layla tried to protest, but the decision had already been made. The site was closed, the research confiscated, and the team dismissed within hours. Layla felt the weight of defeat settle in her chest. Everything they had uncovered, every photograph, every note, was now under military seal. That night, unable to sleep, she received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was calm, female, and precise. "Dr. Haddad, you don't know me, but I know what you have found. You are in danger. The chamber you opened was never meant to be disturbed. There are forces in this city older than history, and they have been waiting for that seal to break." Before Layla could ask who she was, the line went dead. She stared at the silent phone, her heart pounding. She knew the warning was not an empty threat. Someone had been watching from the beginning. The following day, she met Aaron and Miriam in secret at a small cafe in the old city. They sat in a corner whispering as the noise of the market filled the air. Aaron revealed that before the confiscation, he had copied some of the translation files onto a hidden drive. He slid it across the table. It contains everything he said, the language, the symbols, the diagrams. "We can continue our work somewhere safe." Layla hesitated, but took the drive. She knew what that decision meant. They were crossing a line that could not be uncrossed. That night they met again, this time outside the Church of St. Anne, the location marked on the ancient map. The courtyard was empty, the moonlight falling softly across the old stones. They used ground radar to scan the area, and to their astonishment a hollow space appeared directly beneath the courtyard floor. They worked silently, removing a few loose stones until a narrow opening appeared. It led to a spiral staircase, descending into darkness. The air was cold and dry, carrying the faint scent of minerals untouched by time. They descended carefully, their lights revealing walls carved with the same ancient symbols that had haunted their discoveries. At the bottom of the staircase, they reached a vast, circular chamber, larger than anything beneath the Armenian quarter. At its center was a massive dome carved from a single piece of stone covered in intricate lines, forming a perfect sphere. The air shimmered, faintly, as if charged with invisible energy. Miriam whispered, "It feels like we're standing inside a machine." Layla approached the dome, placing her hand on its smooth surface. A pulse ran through it, responding to her touch just as the platform had. In the previous chamber, a pattern appeared across the stone, like constellations forming one by one. Each point of light corresponded to a specific location on the earth. Aaron realized with disbelief, this isn't just a map of the sky. It's a map of the planet, and beneath every major ancient city there is a mark. Cairo, Babylon, Damascus, Athens. It's as if they were all connected. The dome vibrated softly as the lights aligned, forming a spiral of symbols that converged at the center where one final inscription appeared, "Remember the covenant of light and stone." Layla stepped back. The sound grew louder, the air trembling with an invisible rhythm. Then, for a brief moment, the entire chamber glowed, revealing outlines of figures engraved into the walls. Each figure carried an object resembling the disc they had found earlier, and each stood before a pillar of flame. The light dimmed again, leaving only silence. Aaron's hands trembled. This is impossible. The energy this structure emits is beyond anything we understand, Layla whispered. They were not just preserving knowledge, they were preserving power, something that could change the world. If uncovered as they climbed back toward the surface, Layla knew their discovery would not remain secret for long. The sealed forces beneath Jerusalem had waited thousands of years, and now that they had been disturbed, there would be consequences beyond archaeology, beyond politics, and perhaps beyond human control. From a distant rooftop, a figure watched them through binoculars, speaking quietly into a communicator. "The seal of St. Anne has been broken. Proceed to phase 2. The hidden secrets beneath Jerusalem were no longer hidden, and what awaited them next would test not only their courage, but the very limits of what humanity believed possible. The night sky over Jerusalem was calm and clear, but beneath the surface of the city, chaos was beginning to stir. Layla, Haddad, Aaron Kaplan, and Miriam Nazari sat in a safe house outside the old city, surrounded by maps, drawings, and fragments of translated symbols. Their discovery beneath the Church of St. Anne had gone far beyond anything archaeology could explain. They were no longer researchers searching for history. They were witnesses to something that defied time itself. Layla leaned over the table, pointing at the patterns they had copied from the glowing dome. "Every one of these marks," she said, "connects to another city in the ancient world. It's a network, not of trade or religion, but of energy, something deliberately built to channel power across the earth." Aaron nodded, his face pale with exhaustion. "The symbols describe a resonance system. The ancient builders must have understood how the earth vibrates, how energy moves through stone. They used the architecture itself to harness it," Miriam whispered. "Then what is beneath Jerusalem, the source, the heart of it all?" Before Layla could answer, the sound of engines echoed outside. They rushed to the window and saw black vehicles approaching. Their location had been found. Within seconds, armed men surrounded the building. They moved with military precision. Whoever they were not police. Layla grabbed the drive containing their research and stuffed it into her jacket. "We have to move now," she said. They escaped through a back alley, disappearing into the maze of narrow streets that wound through the old neighborhoods. The night air was heavy with tension as they ran past ancient walls that seemed to watch them silently. They finally reached the entrance of an old tunnel beneath the Mount of Olives, a forgotten passage that once served as a water and channel. It led deep into the bedrock, connecting to older paths described in the ancient map Layla had memorized. She was certain that if they followed it far enough, it would lead them to the final chamber, the one the inscriptions called the foundation of light. The tunnel was damp and silent, except for the sound of dripping water. Their flashlights revealed walls covered with markings similar to those in the previous chambers. Only these were more detailed, depicting celestial alignments and events that had yet to occur. Solar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and something else, a series of patterns that seemed to predict global shifts of land and sea. Aaron whispered, "These carvings describe changes in the earth itself." Maybe the builders knew about cycles of destruction and rebirth. Maybe they built these chambers to survive them. After hours of navigating the tunnels, they reached a vast underground hall, unlike anything they had seen before. The ceiling arched high above them, supported by pillars carved into shapes of human figures holding orbs of stone. The floor was covered with mosaics, showing stars and swirling patterns that seemed to move when seen from different angles. At the center stood a massive crystal structure buried in the floor, its surface emitting a faint golden glow. It was surrounded by concentric circles of metal engraved with the same mysterious script. Layla approached carefully, her breath shallow. "This is it," she whispered, "the foundation of light." Aaron set up his instruments, but before he could begin, a low hum filled the chamber. The glow from the crystal grew brighter, flooding the room with light. The air vibrated around them, and suddenly the walls came alive, revealing holographic projections of ancient landscapes, temples, and cities from eras long erased by time. Miriam gasped as the images shifted, showing groups of people building enormous stone structures in perfect alignment with the stars. Each city connected to the next, through beams of light that crossed the earth, forming a web of power. Jerusalem stood at the center of it all. A voice filled the chamber, not through sound, but through vibration in their bones. It spoke in a language none of them had heard, yet somehow they understood. "We built not for gods, but for remembrance. We harnessed the earth's breath and the stars' fire. We gave our knowledge to time, knowing that one day the children of dust would return to the beginning. When the seals are broken, the earth shall speak again." The light pulsed through the crystal and the images vanished, leaving only silence. The hum faded, but a strange warmth filled the room. Layla looked at her hands, the faint glow of golden dust clinging to her skin. She felt calm, not afraid, but aware of something vast and ancient awakening beneath the city. Aaron whispered, "We just spoke to them, or to what they left behind. They knew this day would come. They built this for us." Before they could comprehend what had happened, a rumble shook the ground. The air grew dense with energy. The crystal pulsed again, releasing a beam of light that shot upward through the rock, as if piercing the earth itself. Somewhere above in the old city, the ground trembled, and a pillar of golden light erupted into the sky, illuminating the dome of the rock and the church of the Holy Sepulchre together. The entire city was bathed in a silent radiance that lasted for only a few seconds, then vanished, leaving darkness. When the light faded, Layla, Aaron, and Miriam found themselves standing in stillness. The crystal no longer glowed, but on its surface, new symbols had appeared. They read, "The covenant is renewed, the memory is restored." They returned to the surface just before dawn. The city was waking. People whispering of a strange light seen across the horizon. The government announced it as an atmospheric event, but Layla knew the truth. The seal had been broken, and something deep within the earth had awakened. Months later, the chamber was sealed, again by authorities and all records erased, but the knowledge could not be contained. The data drive Aaron had hidden was safe, and in it lay proof of what they had found. The symbols, the maps, the voice, everything. Layla wrote her final notes in a private journal. The ancients built these places not to worship, but to warn. They understood the balance of earth and sky. They left a message not for power, but for remembrance. We are only beginning to understand what they tried to protect as she closed the journal. She looked out over Jerusalem bathed in golden morning light. The city appeared peaceful, but beneath its streets the foundation of light waited quietly once more, patient as ever, until humanity was ready to truly listen to the secrets that had been buried for thousands of years.